Welcome back to Compound Witness, a podcast about blockchain and the metaverse. This week's guest is Grammy Award-winning musician will.i.am, a daring thinker who brings innovation and disruption to every industry he explores and always leaves it better than he found it. Follow along as we discuss his visions for VR, music, and the future of technology.
Will, you and I met many years ago. I think it was 2014, and it was through Kanye, if I recall. And
Backstage.
we were
backstage.
That's right. That's right. I remember
You were at Oculus.
That's right. I was at Oculus at the time, and I remember we just started talking, and the immediate thing that struck me is you immediately started talking about incredible things related to frontier technologies like VR, hardware. The rise of things like personal fitness and data. And I just remember it being such a fascinating conversation. Like I was just struck by that. And it just so happened we kind of randomly ran into each other, I think, several years later. So I'm very lucky to have had the conversations with you over the years. I'm very lucky to have you as a supporter of Penrose. And I would love to just kick things off and talk about did you have like an aha moment where you decided, hey, technology and frontier tech is something that I want to spend some chunk of my life redefining and thinking through? Like it was just I would just love to hear if you have like a specific moment that stood out for you.
Yeah, so I've had a couple of aha moments, some grander than others, but the one aha moment was Apple asked the Black Eyed Peas to use a song called Hey Mama to kick off iPods in 2003. And there was a couple of things before, like me working and learning on an Apple IIc in elementary school, using Photoshop in 1995 to make our first Black Eyed Pea logo, and remembering all the shortcuts from the Apple IIc in my elementary years, to being really fascinated with Illustrator and Photoshop. And then, in 1999, moving from an MPC 3000 where I made my beats to making my beats just on, the Mac. And that was foreign for a lot of people. Like, what do you mean you make your beats on the computer? You don't use a drum machine? You don't use a keyboard? I'm like, nah, bro, I do everything on the Mac. On Pro Tools? Yep. Well, Pro Tools is not made for composition. Like it's made to record, but you build your beats on Pro Tools? I'm like, yeah, bro, just drag and drop. And what about the swing? Oh, I figure it out by just nudging. I nudge. And, but it was the Apple spot in 2003. And my curiosity of asking questions like, how much did it cost to develop this product? What was the initial investment? How long did it take? What's in it? And if it wasn't for things like Intel Inside, my curiosity wouldn't have asked what's inside of it. That Intel Inside marketing campaign really sparked my imagination to want to know what's inside the computers, because I was one of those guys that would take apart the radio just to put it back together again. Like, hey, let me unscrew it and see what's in the back of this JVC radio, and then let me put it back together again. I was always curious to know how things worked. But it was the Apple spot that said, hey, the moment I get like $5 million that I could play with, I want to develop my own thing.
That's amazing.
Which is a very surreal thought to have if you come from the projects, if you come from the ghetto like I come from. To think, man, the moment I get $5 million to play with, I'm gonna play with it. Because most people don't make $1 million that come from the streets that I come from. That's not something that, is a natural thought process when you come from that survival upbringing. But when I realized that an iPod cost around $5 million to R&D, from making it to the EVT to the tooling to fine tuning through the different iterations and getting it perfect to mass producing it, depending on how scrappy Apple is, maybe for Apple it costs more than that, but it costs around like $1 million to $5 million to make something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sometimes,
yeah,
but depends on how complex it is. Sometimes you can make something for $100,000, depending on how talented your team is. If you have the equipment. When I say that, it's consumer electronics. Sorry, there's some people like, what are you talking about? will.i.am? It don't cost $100,000 to make. Whoever accent that is. What are you talking about? will.i.am? That's not what I call a product. I'm just saying, just generalizing consumer electronics.
Yeah.
Costs around, if it's really complex, $1 million to $5 million. If it's sandwich making, where you're taking components and that exist, it'll probably cost you like $50,000 to $100,000. And yeah, that's that. And to me, that's the ultimate level of creating. Like, making a song is great, feels good to have an idea, get into the studio, make it real, and then think about the video. Like, that kind of creativity is cool. And then you see the result of that, and there's like a sea of people singing your song. That's like, wow, these people know these words. Damn, I remember I was struggling on that line. Like, oh man, now it's in everybody's brain. Wow, that's freaking awesome. And it's another thing to make something. And there's different disciplines, right? Just like you have your drummer, you have your keyboardist, you have your bass player, you have your top liner, somebody that's helping you out with like, fine tuning the lyric or helping you out with the harmonies. It's the same for products. You have your software person, you have your QA, you have your firmware, you have your board spinners, you have your UI, UX cats, you have your freaking procurement folks that are going out looking for parts. You have your beta testers, you have your bug fixers, you have your bug hunters, right? It's the same as a band.
Yeah.
Each person has a different discipline, right? And if you're able to like work with these different disciplines and the egos that come with it,
that's right.
And guess what? You can put together tech teams.
Yeah. Virtual reality. I mean, that's how we first connected. So many years ago, backstage at Kanye, with Kanye. Such an incredible and odd moment. But things have progressed so much in the 5 years or so since then. And in many ways, things have also not progressed at all, right? Like, in many ways, the hype in 2014 was much higher than I think the years that followed. But I'm curious what your perspective is on how VR has evolved. What do we think the big opportunities are for it? And, how the last few years been for VR in your mind?
Okay, so first I want to thank all the VR believers, right? The Eugenes of the world. The reason why that's important is because the hype that we saw in 2000 since the concept of VR, there's been a lot of hype, and there's been products that made people dizzy. And despite, if VR was an entrepreneur, if VR was a person, he or she failed so many times because it never got it right. Some people are like, oh no, I'm getting nauseated. If VR was a person and said, yo, check this out, I got a second iteration, you'd be like, I don't know, I'm still nauseated. Right? Then it's like, yo, all right, we got it right. Check this out. You'd be like, man, this thing is heavy on my head. The riffs and the freaking, the vibes. And, man, this is heavy, man. If VR was a person, every iteration, there's been some pain points. There's been some like, man, it ain't as hype as I thought it was. You really painted, for the voids of the world. Right? Void was pretty odd. They almost had it. And damn, COVID fucked it up. Dreamscape, that was a pretty cool experience where you could touch stuff, feedback. Damn, COVID fucked it up. But still, with the perks, if VR was a person, it didn't get it 100% right as far as reaching the level of hype that there was. And VR, the promise of VR is so huge that it's never going to get it right the first attempt. This is to all the entrepreneurs out there. If you try to accomplish something and you don't get it right, that means your potential is so huge. You just got to keep going. Despite the stumble, despite the fall, despite the shortcomings, you just got to keep on freaking going. Because if VR was a person, it would have gave up a long time ago. But it has all this energy, has all the energies of the Eugenes of the world, the Penroses of the world, the voids of the world, the dreamscapes, the freaking daydream. You have the Sony PlayStation. You have so many passionate people, the 2-bit circuses of the world that are still, they're so passionate. They see the potential. I remember the time when you came backstage, Kanye had a show downtown Los Angeles. Everybody was backstage. And I had saw VR at USC before I think it was the Oculus team, before the Oculus team was a product. They had some demo at the USC campus. And I remember someone said, hey, well, you need to check this out. I think you're going to like it. And I was blown away, but I got dizzy.
Right.
I picked up a chair, VR, but I was tethered to some cable.
Yep.
I was in a room, I saw a whale. I'm like, wow, that's freaking crazy. But then I got dizzy. You get dizzy. I got dizzy when I moved my head fast because the latency at the time and the bit rate was not, it didn't really simulate real life. And the brain, that's why you get the parallax. So when you showed it backstage, I was already hip to the pain points. So and I already washed off those pain points because I fell in love with the potential. And I was like, yo, guys, I don't think you understand our industry. We're going to be making VR in the future. We ain't going to be making albums. We're not going to be making movies. We're going to be making VR experiences. But I think everything I was saying went over everyone's head backstage. Because they were like, oh, there goes will.i.am on that fucking future shit. But Oculus Quest 2 has me convinced that vision is still healthy. Because this year for Christmas, I bought me the Oculus Quest 2. That shit is awesome.
It's incredible.
And it's going to continue to get better and better. Right now, we're at the first VR. Let's say that was Atari and Pac-Man games. I think right now we're not even at Nintendo yet. We are at Intellivision. We're at Coleco, which is a different Atari. But eventually we're going to get to Xbox. And the promise of the worlds that are going to be built, damn, they're going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait. But up until then, I'm still going to be creating in VR. I have a VR team that I fund to help my ideas materialize.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And, it's interesting. We always talk about VR as, a brand new art form, a new way to tell either stories or even just think about media or even look at media. Um, one of the, one of the questions, I mean, this is maybe more philosophical than anything, but it's around, Andy Warhol talks about, the 15 minutes of fame and things like that. The nature of like what's popular as well as who is popular across platforms, right? Even the nature of celebrity can change, from, everything from the music video to, film, like silent film to the talkies, to color film. And now to something like virtual reality, or even before virtual reality, you have like, suddenly the TikTok, the vertical video, right? Which suddenly changes the nature of what's popular there, right? Now you see, instead of sitting for 90 minutes in a dark room, you look at you sit for a few seconds to somebody dancing on a completely different kind of screen. Um, and I wonder what the nature of what is popular, how that will change as VR becomes more and more popular in the world, right? Like the nature of what's going to be popular. Is it going to be gaming? Is it going to be something else? And then like who's going to be popular, right? Because are we all just going to be avatars? And if so, what does that even mean, right? Are we going to be humanoid? Are we going to be more stylized or animated? And what is that going to mean for, I guess what's relevant culturally? I'd be curious, if we can project that far in VR, if it's too early.
Yeah, so my industry that I became successful in first is the music industry. And that industry is technology. The art form of making songs and it being shared now on the internet, but at one point in time, just on radio, and then video on MTV. That's Edison and RCA and gramophones. That was the birth of our industry. Like what's synonymous or equivalent of the phone and TikTok? Before there was an iPhone or a Samsung device and TikTok and Instagram, there was Edison and gramophone. There was still a gram there. Whether it was a polygram or phonogram, it was a gramophone. Way before there was an Instagram and Kevin and Mark Zuckerberg, there was this guy named Edison and gramophones and RCA, which is radio. And that was how you broadcasted. That's how you recorded. Those were the entrepreneurs at the time, and they had their tech companies, and then artists came and aimed their art at those platforms. And there were limitations. A song is 3 minutes and 33 seconds, because that's how much information a vinyl can store. And still to this day, a song is 3 minutes and 33 seconds, even though there's infinite amount of space on an iPhone.
Yeah.
We still think a song is like 4 minutes. Hey, 4 minutes too long, bro. Like, why is it too long? Well, that's because we're conditioned to think that a song is 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Mm-hmm. Or 4 minutes, verse, chorus, verse. Why is it verse, chorus in that order? Because that is the form that fit into the medium. And radio, right? A commercial is 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute long. Even those things, even that form of content is 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. Why? Because that's the conditions of which TV, radio, and vinyl worked. A television show is an hour long, condensed down to 42 minutes, because you have your 15, your 30, and your minute long commercials for sitcoms. And every single segment is broken up into, these minutes to put the 30, 15 seconds into it. They have a form. And in those forms and limitations, they're your stars. And just TikTok has your 15-second stars. Now, what is the promise of VR? Well, damn, the promise of VR is not 15 seconds or 30 seconds or a minute. It's not, Netflix. Here's your sit down. Look at Netflix in a day where people don't have the attention span anymore for 3 minutes and 33 seconds long. You got to get the song shorter because TikTok is telling us that. I'm like, yo, but Netflix, I'm binging for hours, bro. Like, what are you saying? At the same time, you have like people short attention span on Netflix. People choose to binge for hours and they can't get enough. I'm like, yo, that's all you got, Netflix, during COVID? Like, that's it? You ain't got nothing more for me? I want to sit here and waste 2 hours. potentially 5 hours if it's a juicy freaking segment. Now, what is the promise for VR? The promise of VR is 1 or 5 people are going to be responsible for a world.
Yeah.
That you go to and you experience these stories, this information, or just hanging out in ways that contradict reality, as far as the things that you can do. And you could simulate flight. I can't fly in real life, but maybe in VR, there's going to be some equipment that I have in my house that really makes me feel like I'm flying, whether it's a fan and haptic feedback, freaking harnessed. It's going to be freaking awesome. Worlds that are coming, brought to you by the Beatles of that time, brought to you by the freaking Rolling Stones of the time, brought to you by the Jimi Hendrix of the time. There's going to be some psychedelic artist that you follow in real life, but immerse yourself in the world that he or she created. And you're going to spend weeks, months in them. There's going to be situations where husbands and wives are like, I don't understand why you're standing there so much. You love her or what? Babe, she ain't real. She ain't real. This ain't cheating. Like, what are you talking about? It is cheating. I'm looking at you and you're freaking hard. And I don't know. Like, there's going to be that shit. There's new fucking problems that we're going to face, but how much time people spend in VR when we reach the level of, yo, I would rather go on a vacation in VR than go to Italy. That's around the corner, bro. These immersed worlds. That's around the corner. There's going to be like, where do you work? I work for this company. Where is it located? Well, in VR though. There's no physical space right? Like there's just like Clubhouse is a clubhouse. You go into this virtual slice. Like the virtual world has made its way into physical world, but in slices. Clubhouse is a virtual world on your screen where people come together and talk. Zoom is a slice of the virtual world into reality world, because now here I am talking to Eugene. But that just shows you just how freaking crazy it's going to be in VR. How much more like, yo, so where are you at right now, Eugene? Well, I'm in wherever I'm at, but we're here together and we're having, right? You could simulate eating together by making sure my delivery is synced up to your delivery and it comes and arrives at the time. And right, there's so much stuff that are going to happen. But people are like, how are you going to eat together? Easy. They're already delivering stuff to our houses. Now, what happens when you sync the deliveries? Or I meet up at a place where the food's there, you meet up at a place where your food's there, and it's not like when you go to a restaurant, your fucking food arrives at the same time. It doesn't. Like sometimes your food comes first before my food, depending on what we ordered. Fact is, these spaces are going to be created and they're going to be like super immersive. And some people are going to want them over the real space. Just like right now, we living in a world where people have fake asses, fake lips in real fucking life. And that's a thing. There's people that win beauty pageants with augmented body parts over folks that are natural. We are so past, loving natural things. The food we eat is, I'm not saying I agree with this, but the food we eat is synthetic and altered. The people that we are the things that we're attracted to are augmented and not natural.
Yes.
Zoom is not natural.
Yeah.
And we're accustomed to, synthesized things. And we, a lot of times we prefer them. The filters on our cameras that make your face look a certain way. We are already attracted to the synthesized version of things. And if you want to take it down and dumb it down to music, some people be like, yeah, that's right, will.i.am, because like boom, boom, pow, your voice sounds hella synthetic. Like you started all that auto-tune, augmented shit. Right. So now what is that on not on steroids? What is that like hyperfied to the most level?
And that's such an amazing point. And I am frankly, and it's one of the deepest concerns of my life, especially as somebody working in technology and working in frontier technology. And it's like in COVID times, I was lucky to be able to go out to a place with nature, and that was, I was used to live in a city, San Francisco, in the middle, and not be able to see as much nature, and that was just a stark reminder, right, randomly of, hey, there's nature and it exists and it's gorgeous and beautiful and irreplaceable, and much of it's going away as fast as possible, or extremely fast. I remember I was at Davos and I was really struck. I remember when we were lucky enough to be hanging out in Davos, I was very struck by some of the things you said. You were on stage with a bunch of world leaders, great thinkers, and you had some really insightful things about our responsibility as co-creators of the new world, particularly with things like AI and the emergence of AI, which I know you have a lot of experience in, and a company that has done so much in that space. I'm curious, as tech entrepreneurs, or even just as straight people, what kind of responsibility like do you think we have, or do we have none? Like, is there nothing we can do, right? Like, is technological progress just going to eat everything? Software is going to eat the world, for better or worse, regardless of what we do or what we care about, or how we do it. It's hard for me to really think of a really practical approach to solve this problem of sort of increasing separation of humans from nature, from what's natural. um, I just don't have one, and I'd be curious if you have thoughts about what we could do, um, as entrepreneurs.
To make sure that everything is not synthetic,
Mhm.
and we value the natural world, we have to promote, just as much as technology is liberating and connects us, we also have to do a really good job of telling the general public how technology also disconnects us. It's a great connector, but that's an illusion, because I'd say it's 50-50. It connects us, but really disconnects us. It's an amazing environment to connect, collect, but it's also an island
Mhm.
where you're by yourself.
Yes.
Um, and entrepreneurs, especially the giants, have to do a, a better job at um, promoting face to face. If there's a company that does it, that does a really good job at that, I think Apple is a good balance. And when the world was open, the Apple Store, they don't have to have Apple stores. Actually, they make more money not having Apple stores. And probably the reason why they have Apple stores is because they store all of their Apple products in those locations. That is their warehouses. They have warehouses in affluent communities for all their products. But other than that, Apple doesn't necessarily have to have Apple stores. And their stores really bring people together. Right? And they do a really awesome job making sure people have someone to talk to about fixing their device, educating the community wherever they are on, coding. There's coding classes, music workshops. Apple does a really cool job bringing people together. And Facebook could do better. Google could do, like, we know the physical version of an iPhone is an Apple store.
Mm.
What's the physical version of Google?
Mm.
Especially when schools are failing to
Yeah.
prepare people for tomorrow.
Mm.
And Google has enough money to adopt
Yeah.
schools and make sure that there's computer science programs, and Alphabet, not Google, Alphabet company, because they also invest in robots and develop, technology that's going to disrupt tomorrow and render a lot of jobs obsolete. So Google could have a physical, not Google, Alphabet could have a physical presence to curb this crippling of humanity as it was, to only rely on the synthetic virtual tools. Tesla's awesome. And because Tesla has forced the Mercedes of the world to address clean mobility, and because of that, now Tesla might be in trouble. Because if you have equivalent, like what do you want? An electric Mercedes or an electric Tesla? And when it comes to aspiration, maybe when it's all equal, 5 years, 10 years, maybe Tesla's going to be, they're going to see the real competition. But Tesla's cool for now. And their vehicles, they connect people. That's like physical, virtual, man and machine, for point A to point B, for people to go be around other people. VR, like I said, is isolation at its definition. There's going to be social problems and social issues that we can't even fathom, that are going to, just like we couldn't imagine the dangers of Facebook in 2002, on how, if someone told you like, yo, there's going to be this social platform that, you know what I'm saying, it's going to persuade you to do things you never would have done, and it's going to bring out the worst in your concept of tolerance and understanding. It's going to manipulate, what you think and how you behave, and it's going to predict, what your life is going to be, because you're on it so much. And even when they give you this information about how detrimental it is, not only for you, but for society, you're not going to get off of it.
Yeah.
If somebody told you that 2001, 2002, you'd be like, get the fuck out of here. That ain't me. That ain't me. There's no way in hell I'm going to be like pimp like that. Yeah. Gotcha.
Here we are. Here we are today.
Bro. Like, come on, bro. So VR has and that's just because there's the regulations. So whose fault is it? Is it Facebook's fault? Is it the fact that governments around the world are not regulated? Governments around the world don't govern and regulate properly to ensure that our privacy is protected, our data is not slanged and pimped. Are we really being protected? And because there's these loose conversations about it, and practices, we have what we have now. And if that continues, then VR, which is also owned by Facebook, but Oculus, it's a little worried. You should be worried. But I'm an optimist, so I think it's going to be freaking awesome.
That is such an interesting way to frame it. And in many ways, a lot of things that have just become such a prevalent part, that becomes so powerful as technology platforms started off, people thought they were toys, right? People thought there wasn't a whole lot to them. And of course, over time, that sort of, the entire narrative changes, and it's incredible to see that. I was watching this documentary about the social media giants. I think it was on Netflix, and there was one of the senior executives at one of the major social media platforms. They asked him what they thought the end result of all this would be. Like, what is he most afraid of? And completely deadpan, he looks at the camera and he says, "Civil war." And at the time, I was like, "Oh, come on," right? I thought he was joking, and he was completely serious. And I've thought about it since then. And while I am like you, an optimist, I don't think and hope things don't get that far. I see what at least that perspective is. I see what is happening to society, right? You just open, the news and you see it, and that is a concern, and just something that I hadn't even conceived as a possibility in our lifetimes. But
Yeah.
now,
So first you have to ask the question,
mhm,
why would he say Civil War?
yeah,
And then because he said Civil War, you have to
Yeah.
ask, what was the Civil War about in America in the first place?
Yeah.
And why were people at odds with each other?
Yeah.
What was the South fighting the North about? And why were they so different on their beliefs to the point where it clashed in war? And then you look at how people have been divided on these platforms and manipulated and persuade against their just morals, like the humanity of, and we've come so far that this doctored, isolated information pump playing on my emotions and playing on my emotions to buy things, and FOMO can also be used to play on my emotions to put me at odds with you, that we can no longer have a conversation about how to even raise our children without people's emotions getting flared, without someone feeling like they're attacked, starting off with just thumbs up and thumbs down, how like more thumbs down created depression and anxiety and panic, and how thumbs up create like dopamine and like I feel like I'm important. These types of gaming mechanisms and gamified, these types of gamified persuade technology and algorithms to really pry into the way our minds are configured and
Yes.
manipulate us can
Yes.
send us at odds to where we're no longer guided by morals. We're guided by the puppetry tools.
Yes.
So yeah, and if a Facebook exec said that, that's nothing to take lightly. If he says
Yeah.
Civil War,
Yeah.
because they're probably digging into the technologies that they know are effective when it comes to persuading folks to go against what they probably said 10 years ago they would never do or not do.
There's so much to be concerned about. It's I think about it all the time. I mean, it's just something that I think is just so important. And I just wish there was even more dialogue about it. I know there is some dialogue for sure. Obviously there's laws being considered and laws being passed. At least it's not something that's completely hidden. So there, I guess we could be grateful for that. But I feel like it's a even greater risk than even people give it credit for. So, so speaking of new technologies, one of the hot one of the hot buzzwords of the day, NFTs. Any thoughts? Passing fad? Long-term value? Is there something that will be permanent there, that will have sort of an effect in a positive or negative way, or do we think this is just just the latest craze in the long line of crazes?
Okay, so when it comes to NFTs, I'm not an expert at it, and I'm not an expert in a lot of things, but there's some things that I know more than others. And just because of my experience and my appetite to want to know. So I can't say that that I could ping pong on the NFT table long.
Sure.
Like if we're talking about VR, if we're talking about
Yeah.
AI, the ping pong session will be like,
that's right.
but for me on NFTs, it'll be like, and that's the ball just fell over there for me on my end. But one of the things that I've made a comparisons to is to validate any type of currency or to move money around. Art has always been used to validate currency. Whether it was going from the Dark Ages to the Enlightenment ages, and Michelangelo's paintings, the monarchies are equivalent to the whales today. the whales for NFTs are the monarchies then and the lords that would buy, Bernini, Michelangelo, and all the other, artists to get validated the coins that you were trading with.
That's right. The Medicis of the world.
Say again?
In modern form. The Medicis of the world, the whales, they've come into modern form now, right? I mean, basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Just separated by a few hundred years.
Yeah. So that's why, because before then, there was a bartering system, and I'm maybe, like I said, I'm not an expert, and but at some point in time, villages, like I would trade you some milk for some eggs. Then these systems were put in place to tax, and here's the method that we're going to trade now. You're no longer going to give your wheat for milk, or your wheat for, brick. Just use this. And a lot of the times, to really validate that coin, things that people couldn't do, like paint and make sculptures, became higher value than farmers. Because that farming is a different talent than making a sculpture. And making a sculpture was hard to learn. So the artists were always valued by, for whatever reason, than farmers. And when I say farmers, the folks that are working in the field, right? Yep. So my ancestors were farmers, got paid little to no money, slave labor. But the arts, they valued higher. And so here we are in this world where it's a new type of exchange, and NFTs, this is where my knowledge and expertise in the space, I don't know what, because just a couple years ago, a JPEG was a JPEG.
That's right.
Moving JPEG is a GIF. And now there's value there. And then there's some experts who are like, no, well, then you don't understand NFTs. And then I'll be like, I told you, I don't. So please explain to me. People are buying them. Who are the people and what are they doing with them? My mind's going all over the place, but I'm bringing it back to this metaphor. I was talking to Slick Rick one day, and I'm like, yo, bro, those gold chains are awesome. He was like, yeah, well, so back in the 80s, the gold chains were a way to bring money from one country to another country, because you couldn't travel with over $10,000. You couldn't travel with $1 million in a briefcase, but I could travel with a gold chain. So this gold chain was a way to move money across the Atlantic and the Pacific.
Yeah.
So is the NFT a way to put money, just like a piece of art, like you invest in a Banksy, and because it's so rare and the scarcity of it, it will always hold its value. And so because a community of people deem that as credible and this artist a credible person, then my money here in a form of NFT and Bitcoin, in crypto, will appreciate, because the scarcity of it is the reason why my money will grow, and then someone else will buy it. And because it's being sold on the blockchain, I could track all the different hands that it's changed in. So what brings up a different type of financial structure and exchange structure, which points to me that maybe in the next 10 years, even finance will be disrupted. The American dollar will be disrupted. The pound will be disrupted, right? The euro will be disrupted. In the next 10 to 15 years, our concept of currency will change.
Yes.
But like I said, this is just me brainstorming and riffing on what this all means. It's exciting. It's cool. It's great that there's a new form for people to make money digitally with digital currency on the blockchain, whatever wallet it's stored in, or whatever cryptocurrency you're using. What does it all mean, and where is it pointing to? And what does it mean in VR when I'm in a freaking world that somebody designed, and I've been here, right? So right now I go to sleep and I wake up. And those are only two things I do, bro. and we all, those are the two things we do in this life. We go to sleep and we wake up, and when we wake up, we have control of what we do. When you're dreaming, you have no control of the other time that you are a fucking live. I can't control what the fuck I'm gonna dream tonight. I can't be like, yo, I want to dream about that one girl. Yo, I want to dream about like how to solve my problems when I'm awake. Yo, I can't wait to meet the person that I met last dream ago. You don't have control over that. So there's one thing that you do in your waking days that you have control is what you do when you're awake. And then there's this thing called virtual reality that's coming. And now that we have new ways of exchanging currency and value that can be tracked and not tracked, damn, that virtual space, that could be, damn, that's gonna be, that's some other shit. I can't find the words for it, but I don't think people see how big that is.
Yes.
Because it's similar to dreams.
Yes.
Because you can't, there's limited things you do in reality.
Yeah.
Gravity is, defying gravity is a sentence because of this thing called gravity. And flight, propulsion, all the things like moving fast in a car, like all these limitations in reality, you're limited here. But in virtual reality, you're not. And it's similar to dreams and flight and the sense of flight and the super strength that you get in dreams. You can simulate that in virtual reality. Now, if you put the same type of geometry and metrics and values and exchange and wealth and currency in a virtual space, there's going to be people that, just like those folks that never leave their neighborhood, there's going to be people that just go to sleep and wake up and just live there. There's going to be people you meet and say like, wait a second, so you've never left VR when you go to sleep? In 30, 40 years, there's going to be a person. Just like here we are on Earth and we've never left the fucking Earth. And there's a few people that's gone off the Earth that are still up there in the space station, but that's it. There's limitations on your waking days. There's going to be folks that choose to be and live and exist and have a life and a family, whether they're fucking VR AI companions. There's folks that are lonely right now, bro. They can't find love, and it's hard to find their soulmate.
Yeah.
There's going to be, in 30, 40 years from now, folks that they're satisfied with what the virtual reality provides for them. And that sounds like the Matrix. And when I watched the Matrix in 2000, I remember asking a question like, I wonder what company that is. What's the company that made that stuff? Because you just watched the movie. But that was a company, bro. Somebody started that. Somebody wrote the program. Somebody went out and fucking funded it at one point in time. Somebody invested in it. And then it became the Matrix. And you know that when they started that company, they were loose on the regulations. When they started that company, there was no governance. So when you compare the Matrix next time you watch it to what the fuck's going on right now and the loose regulations and the crimes against morals,
yes,
be careful of where this is going and who. Trust, bro, that 30 years from now, nuts.
That's absolutely incredible. It's just amazing to think about the way everything is going to evolve. I feel like I feel like there's so much to explore and there's so much to think about, but I always enjoy the opportunity to have the sort of waking dream about what our dreams are going to be in the future whenever I chat with you. So thank you for being so inspirational. Are there any concluding thoughts or things, things that you'd like to share with the world about any of these technologies, or just the way the way things are evolving. Yeah, I would love to hear if you have any things that sort of tie together the things that we've talked about, the diverse topics we've talked about today.
I just kind of in going in that little
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
I saw something that's not good.
And what is that?
That's going to be unless we like regulate and get controls on where this is all going, it could get really bad. And we could wake up in a world in 2050, 2060 and be like, yo, how the fuck did we get here? This is who designed it this way, and why is it like this? And or we could take a look at what we're doing now. As exciting as all these new technologies are, whether it's crypto, NFT, VR, AI, like we've never been here before. Like humanity's never been here before. The last industrial revolution, look what the fuck happened. The last industrial revolution, the inhumane practices that conquistadors and nations did when they colonized and eradicated tribes and people and enslaved people. Look what the fuck happened last industrial revolution. And there were no moral guidelines of practice. And here we are with godlike tools.
Yeah.
Right. So we didn't even talk about freaking synthetic biology and CRISPR.
Yeah.
And if the iPhone changed the world in 2008, especially when the App Store was open after the jailbreak community, look at how much it changed the world in less than 11 years of the App Store being like fully functional. Everyone's developing on it. Imagine what's going to happen because of synthetic biology. And so you have a lot of things popping off at the same time, bro. You got crypto, you got blockchain, you have NFT, you have AI, you have VR, you have AR, you have CRISPR, synthetic biology, governance, question mark.
Yes.
You know what I'm
saying? And we know that's going to be slower, right? I mean, regulation always follows, usually, follows innovation, not the other way around. Yeah, I mean, there's just, as you painted the picture of the potential future, I mean, it is both in some ways radically different than what is today, but it's not. There's this straight through line you can see. And, you don't know exactly how that train's going to get there. But when it does, it does feel like it's on track. So that's almost inevitable.
Who said it was a train?
Yeah.
This ain't a train no more, bro. This is like a helicopter, and who knows if the freaking propellers are screwed on tight.
Who knows if there's a pilot?
It's not a pilot. It's some AI, bro. Like I'm realizing that the pilot
Skynet.
That's an AI. Who's AI?
Pilot is Skynet.
Yeah, I don't know, bro.
Yeah. Is the pilot is it Wall-E or is it Skynet? I think that's the big question. That's the big question that's going to be before us in the coming years.
Oh, is the pilot Wall-E or is it who?
Wall-E or Skynet, right? Is it the AI from Terminator, or is it the AI that's trying to save humanity and bring us back to nature?
Yeah, Wall-E. I hope it's Wall-E.
I hope so too. Well, as we said, we're at least at least a little optimistic. So I think that there's opportunity for people in technology and people overall to just make a difference in all of this. So I think I feel like I could talk for so long about all these topics. I feel like we just barely covered a lot of this important stuff. But I have to say, just in conclusion, just thank you so much, Will. You have always been an inspiration. I feel like every time I chat with you, I always learn something new, and I always see things in a different light. So you have that just magical power to be able to just take concepts and explain them in such a way that is so illuminating, at least for me personally, and I'm sure for many of our listeners as well. So
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
also, I just want to apologize to the NFT community. I put my disclaimer out there. I said I'm not super freaking 100%, not even 50% in the details. My imagination is doing the majority of the work. So if all the folks that are in that world and doing it every day, nothing but respect. And all the crypto folks, nothing but respect. And I want to learn more. But right now, my imagination is doing the majority of the work. And a lot of times when you don't know and your imagination is like full powered, worries and paranoia can be the can influence where your imagination goes. And that's for a lot of things, right? Even like taking the vaccine. Your worry and your paranoia and your imagination is doing all of the work. And because you don't have the facts, you don't have the details. And I'm aware that my details on the crypto NFT conversation is not where I want it to be. I'm a hunter. I like to know. And give me 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's have this conversation 9 months.
Well, having seen the amazing things you've been able to do in even less time in other amazing frontier technologies, I have no doubt we'll have some amazing things to at least talk about and to think through in that amount of time. So thank you so much, Will. This has been an incredible pleasure and an incredible experience. You're an inspiration as always, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thanks, Eugene.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.